All right. Hey, everyone, good evening, and welcome to Talk It Out, where we will talk it out. That was my best Dury impression. So, hi. If you don't know who I am Rickey Z. I am filling in for Dury for tonight. He had some other engagement that he had to attend to, so he wouldn't be with us tonight. So, if you don't know, I am one of the co-hosts or co-panelists for our sister show, Geekin Out, which comes on every other Monday at 8 p.m. So, Talk It Out is a place where people of opposing views get together and have a healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way, keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. You can find Talk It Out and Woe Nelly Media Productions on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find us on our Facebook. So let me find that. Oh my goodness. So just so you guys know, this is my first time hosting, and that's okay. So you can find us, like I said, on YouTube, Anchor, Radio Public, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any place where you will like listen to your podcast or anything else. So first, I'm going to introduce our first panelist. This is Mo. Hey, Mo.
Hey.
We have Mo, who is a critical thinker, professional driver, who's a seeker of knowledge and truth. Welcome to tonight's episode, Mo. How you doing today?
Doing all right. Also, let me make sure put that cash app up. Of any donation that I'm not I'm not greedy. Maybe a little needy. But other than that, I'm good.
Awesome. All right, so next we have Danny. Danny, who is a writer and storyteller who currently leads the development of Shadowrun's RPG's official campaign. He's also a content manager for Rim Alternus, a creative media outlet for short film, comics, and gaming. When he's not paneling for Talk It Out, you can find him on a variety of streamed tabletop gaming content. Hi, Danny. How are you doing today?
I am doing just great today. Good to be here again, and good to see everybody.
Awesome. Okay, so our next panelist is Miss Georgia. How you doing, Miss Georgia? Can you hear us, Georgia? All right, Miss Georgia is a single Libra mother of two beautiful daughters who's addicted to running and fitness. Oh, there you are. 2010 Georgia State University graduate with a BA in Spanish literature. Also a homeschooling mom. More power to you, girl. Yes. How you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in here. Happy to be here. Talk about some stuff and get, a little ratchet.
Yes.
But that's, have a little fun.
Yes. All right. Georgia also enjoys cooking, traveling, eating, and practicing self-care, which is also very important.
I love to eat.
Our next panelist is James. Yes. James is a well-traveled Army veteran turned English teacher. He's an avid reader and a Toastmaster enthusiast. He's not a big social media guy, but he's happy to be here. So thank you, James, for being here. How you doing tonight?
Good to be here.
Good.
Doing pretty good. I'm in South Korea. It's actually 10 in the morning.
Oh, so, wow. Bless you.
So hi, from the other side of the world.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
So an English teacher. Got it.
Yes. So like teaching actual English. All right. And so our next panelist is Gus. Gus Langley is a troublemaker turned filmmaker. Check him out on IMDb to see the latest addition to his film catalog of over 70 roles. You can catch him weekly on the Art Hard Studios flagship show We D&D, Tuesday nights on Twitch and Fridays on YouTube, or in the wide world of Bayer films with over 20 short films. Also currently available for free on YouTube. How you doing tonight, Gus?
Good. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us tonight. All right. And then our well, it's not our last panelist, but we're still waiting on Darius. But we have Sam. Let's see. Sam is an Atlanta native, realtor, mother of 2 beautiful kids, former educator and dancer. Loves experiencing new things and staying open to life. How are you doing tonight, Sam?
I'm awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was struggling before, but yeah, definitely. I'm so grateful to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so before we get started on our first topic, I want us to go to a quick commercial break. Hey, it's Rickey.
And Durie.
Hey, I'm Chris.
It's Jessa.
And Julian.
So have you guys heard about Anchor? If you haven't, it's great. And it's honestly the easiest way to do a podcast. Let us explain. First off, it's free.
And you'll have all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
And Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you. So as soon as you're finished uploading, you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms.
And guess what? You can make money off of your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's basically a one-stop shop for everything you need. So go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And make sure you come back and geek out with us.
We got commercials now. That's
Yes.
where we're going.
Yes, we do have commercials. So that's our.
And we're back.
You're not.
Yes, we have Anchor FM. That's how we are streaming our podcast. So for some reason, I was having computer issues, so I had to move to a different part of the room. All right. So our first topic, we're gonna start it off a little light, and then we'll get into some heavier stuff towards the end. So who has seen the new Mulan live action Mulan? Who's even worried about that right now?
I have not. I do not plan
It
on
was
seeing it.
$30.
I mean, I get it. If you have a family of 4, you're gonna spend at least $40 to go see it at the movie theater.
I'd rather spend that 40 going to the movies and reclining and then having a drink.
I mean, I get it because Disney's just trying to recoup some of their money because by
My
November.
11-year-old said, "Mommy, don't pay $30."
Wow. And then also once you pay the $30, it's like an early see it or whatever it's called because you keep it all. You're able to review it. So I get it. Although it's just not me. I'm not that into Mulan.
Not for 30.
I mean, not for any amount of money because I really wasn't into Mulan. It was just kind of like one of those those type of movies that are like it's a girl that's pretending to be a boy. I was like, no, honey, I'm all the way out. I don't care. It never grooved me. It never gripped me. So
there was a lot of confusion about how this was supposed to be released. So there was people under the impression that if you had Disney Plus, you'd be able to just see it, kind of like how they did with Hamilton, as opposed to if you already have the subscription, you got to pay the extra $30 to do it. Now, I didn't have the high expectations for Mulan like I did for the other live action films like Lion King or Beauty and the Beast and all that stuff because they had already released information about it not being the cartoon with the songs and the little dragon and all that stuff that you would normally like about the movie. So my expectations were kind of low. So I saw it. I didn't pay for it. I saw no. I didn't pirate. Nope. My baby daddy. I graciously let him use my Disney Plus account, and so he purchased it on his end, and so I could watch it on mine. So hey, you get it where you can. So I watched it, and it's good if you don't have that expectation of watching a musical cartoon. it wasn't bad. Like the action sequences are really good. I enjoyed it. It's it veers away from the cartoon, which is okay. It's just you gotta get over that expectation of it being exactly like the original Disney production.
I don't know. I think I just expected it to be historic and ancient anyway,
Which
not
is a lot
very
of money.
cartoony and fun.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's also where some of the other sort of discussion around the film has kind of come from. So we got the blatant money grab from Disney, but
Yeah.
also for a movie that was cast with a lot of Asian people, it sure did have a lot of white everything else.
Oh, one of those.
White
And
director.
producer, storyteller, like all of it, and so there's things in there that that could be sort of offensive to certain folks. Just the whitewashing of certain things, like the evil witch, that could turn into that sort of thing, and that's not like negative. It doesn't have the same witches don't have the same negative connotations, in Asian culture as they do in like European culture and stuff.
Right. And I remember like seeing some things on social media about like we do have like the white director and producer. There was an article about the white costume designer that she, instead of like actually researching the culture, she just decided to go to some museums that just so happen to have like Chinese or exhibits featuring Chinese culture instead of like going to the source, which you would think that would make more sense as a like. I'm sure Disney had the budget for you to actually go and like do some real research as opposed to half-assing it.
So she
You
didn't
would
do her
think.
homework,
No.
unlike with Black Panther, that fashion designer, I mean that costume designer actually did research of various cultures around in that region
You can
and
definitely
come up with
tell.
those looks.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Although with the new rules that the Academy Awards are coming up by 2024, I think it still counts, right? With the diversity,
Hmm.
because it's like,
Probably.
yeah, because it's a full Asian cast. So even though it's a full crew of Caucasian, it still works, right?
So someone asked in the chat, looks like, was it wrong that they had white producer, white director, and all that kind of stuff? And that's a good question. It is especially going to tie in right later to what we're going to talk about. But what happens is there's nothing wrong with it in and of itself. What happens though is when it's like Rickey was saying that they don't actually go through all the trouble of doing things. They see it through the lens of their own experiences, and so that's when you get like the stuff they did with Chi and how they presented that, which is not necessarily how it is seen in Asia, or like with the witch, or having the costumes wrong, and that's what ends up happening. And people tend to get like all riled up about or don't seem to understand it. But then if you turn it around and you put another movie on or another show and you throw in something, you put a person of color into a white role, or you don't like express how things were in that region exactly right, then you get a lot of outcry the other way too. So
Yeah. I definitely agree. Like I think it's not necessarily wrong. Sam, we can't hear you, girl. I don't think it's necessarily wrong that they have a white producer, but there are certain things that might slip under the radar, and like you said, like you're getting it from that producer and that director's lens, which may not necessarily match up with the vision, or at least like the culture that it's supposed to represent. And so like that's a problem, especially when we are trying to have more, not just diversity for diversity's sake, but like authentic representation. Like that's the thing. Like it's not just like I want to see an Asian person, I want to see a Black person, I want to see a Latina or Latinx person on the screen. Like I want authentic representation of these different cultures that we have.
I think it's going to hurt Disney in the long run with this case because China is becoming a larger customer as far as when we're talking about movies. And they're going to definitely want to see authenticity when they're watching, especially when they're watching themselves. So they're going to have to put in the extra effort. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind.
Right.
Hey, Rickey, it looks like James is back in.
I'm looking like he's not at the bottom anymore.
Yeah,
I think he got
brought
kicked
it
off
back
again.
in and got booted right
Yeah,
back
he
out.
got a connection issue.
Oh man, I don't know what's going on tonight.
That's what happens when we got to send a signal to space and bounce it around, coming all the way from Korea.
Send it to the future.
Technology.
Hey Sam, you trying to say something? Oh man. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next thing. So also another light topic, and we'll get into a little deeper one. So I don't know who else has been like paid attention to the Verzuz series that started during the pandemic, which kind of started off just like as like a DJ, kind of playing some tunes here and there, and then we have
DJ
like
Nice.
actual and he's great. And then we have like actual artists like getting together and playing their hits. And so like the last one was Brandy and Monica, which actually like really did really well and had over 1 million views, which was pretty amazing. And so this one that's coming up on Sunday, bless our hearts, it is Gladys and Patti LaBelle. So for all the aunties and uncles and grandparents out there, this is your night right now. Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight on Verzuz. And honestly, I can't decide. Like, I don't even feel like I don't even think it feels right to decide like who would.
So wrong. You don't make that kind of decision.
No, that's like trying to pick your favorite auntie, and I can't.
First of all, they're wrong for making this choice.
Yeah,
Like-
you see the meme where it's like this big old huge ginormous plate of soul food,
Yes.
and that's what Patti and Gladys are, like this Verzuz thing. Like, this is torture. I grew up on that kind of music. Like, I had older parents, so I'm hurt. Like, I have to choose. Like, I know all the songs, and it's just I don't know if I want to watch it, but then I don't want to watch it because I'm gonna be so just this inner conflict.
As we were said, it's a Sophie's Choice type of deal. Like, I mean, like I can't bring myself to choose. What about you, Gus and Danny, James, Sam? Like, what are your thoughts? Do y'all have feelings about this? I know I have feelings.
Let the greats be great. These two, I agree.
Love that
Just let them be.
That's very diplomatic of you. Yes, thank you, James.
Yeah, it just comes from it's an era before I really got into music. So I'm like, I have a lot to say about certain artists and certain genres of music, and then there's music where I'm just like, nah, that's music. It's good,
Yeah.
and that's I'll take it all.
Absolutely.
I think the irony is that basically with the industry, they always pit artists against each other of similar sounds. So this is what happened when they first came out as artists, or around the time they came out as artists. So having to like relive this again, I'm like cringing. Like, wait a minute, Auntie, put your shoe down. We're not about to have this again, okay?
Like this.
I don't feel right. I mean, I'm going to be in church anyway when this happens at 5:00, so I'm not going to deal with this. It's not. I'll catch the replay. I'm not doing the live. Furthermore, I'm not going. I'm not teaching anybody's uncle or auntie or grandpappy how to use Instagram or Apple Music on Sunday. It's not happening. So I haven't even, put it on my social medias or anything. Let the shit fall as they may.
No, the only time I've done that is when I'm clowning my aunts and uncles about it. Because at most right now they're on Facebook and that's about it. And we're gonna keep it that way. But like honestly, does it really need to be a versus? Can we just enjoy the music? Can I just go back and forth? And we just enjoy their music for a little while?
I mean, even with the Monica Brandy situation, I love both of those artists. I'm from Atlanta, so I have an affinity for Monica and for Brandy. And they're different, totally different. I mean, they have a similar sound, obviously, and they came from a similar era. But at the same time, they are two very different artists. And I feel like maybe that, like, I really like the verses. But I wonder, like, how much is contributing to, like, the pitting against each other of, like, similar artists. Like, we always want to say, well, you can support this person and this person. It's not a competition. But now we're having these verses, and I think it is meant for entertainment. Obviously, people are enjoying it. But I'm wondering, like, how much is that continuing the either or? And I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people got pissed off about the Monica Brandy thing. Like, a lot of people were joking about it, but some people really took it serious.
I mean, it ain't Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem, you know.
Right. I mean, it's not like beef. It's not like bars. You know what I'm saying? It's not like like Eminem and
each other. Monica and slap Brian. I don't know. It's this.
She did punch her. She did punch her one good time. But that was 20 years ago. They were two different people.
Curtis says, "Yeah, but whose boy was it?"
Neither one of them, because he was cheating on both of them.
Wait, according to Monica has stated that it was Brandy's because it was her song, which is true. It was Brandy's song. Clive Davis decided to be Clive Davis and actually requested for Monica to have it on her album. So see, the thing about it is that they've always pitted artists against each other. This isn't anything new with the industry. The difference is that they're like, okay, we already know this. We already know this trope as far as artistry. So we're gonna turn it on its head, and we're doing the verses, but we're doing it in love. Mm-hmm. We're gonna reminisce about what our favorite songs are, and if the fandom wants to be toxic, then that's on the fandom. That's not on us. You know?
Yes, and I think that Verzuz is kind of pulled away from like its initial like purpose, was just to kind of be like a feel good, like we're listening to our, like I feel like that's what it was initially, like a feel good, like I want to listen to our favorite artists and songs that we know from these people, and like it's gotten like some really big production in the last like few.
But it wasn't always like that.
I feel like
that's what it went to.
That was a synopsis of what it was supposed to be. But you have to remember that one with The Dream and what's the little boy's name? What's the little boy's name? Sean Kingston.
Yeah.
When he was drunk or high, wherever the hell he was, and The Dream was extremely obnoxious because he was like, "You're not even taking it seriously." Then the whole fiasco with Babyface and Teddy Riley.
Oh man, that was a mess.
Right. So those are the reasons why the production had to actually go up, and now money is involved because it's now being sponsored by Apple Music.
Mm-hmm.
So money is getting exchanged. So I'm happy that artists are actually having the opportunity of making money because their streams are actually going up, by 100, 200, 300%, whatever. Same thing with Brandy and Monica. Their streams went up astronomically because wasn't no one talking about them. Same thing with Erykah Badu and Jill Scott, Mm-hmm. So it's a great opportunity for these artists where no one's really talking about and having an opportunity to be talked about, because typically artists of those stature, the majority of their money was coming from touring.
Right.
They're not really able to tour because of the pandemic. So
yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a win-win from everybody.
Yeah. I just hope it's still to the point where like we're more interested in like listen to the music, and as opposed to just the hoopla of fandom, which I do enough of that on my own with other things. So like I don't need all the extra stuff. But speaking of a different type of verses, we have Cardi B and Candice Owens. I
Do we
told
have
you.
to?
Look, I told you we're gonna start off a little, some real easy stuff. We're gonna ease our way into it. But yes, Candice Owens and Cardi B. So Cardi B recently just did a socially distanced interview with Joe Biden. And of course, it's all over the internet. And then Candice Owens does what she does.
She was mad because she didn't get a seat at the table for the RNC convention.
And and of course when that happens, like Cardi B is gonna respond, and so they have their good back and forth, and but like my feelings on Candice Owens is like, why are you here?
I got a question. Do y'all believe she declined the RNC?
See, I heard about that. So I heard that.
Do y'all believe that? Do y'all believe that? Anyone?
No.
Any takers?
I really don't believe that.
Anybody? Okay.
I mean, that's exposure. Who declines that kind of exposure?
Well, and so here's the thing, though. So if you don't know, then Candice Owens says that she declined an invitation to the RNC due to being 6 months pregnant. Granted, now she could have done a video like many other politicians have done. Granted, that's the Democratic, the DNC did that for the most part, whereas the RNC, like, it was crowds, y'all people there. So I don't know. I'm like, it's plausible, but I'm like, it's Candice Owens.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
I don't buy it. I'm gonna have to see that baby.
Or maybe she got her wake up call after she saw what's his name was at the Herman Cain. Yeah, he was sitting on the front row saying "Go Trump" without a mask on, even though he's a cancer survivor. And 3 weeks later, he passed away from complications from the coronavirus. Maybe she was like, you know what? I am pregnant. Maybe I could just say I'm pregnant.
I mean, I don't not believe it. Like, if that's what she says, that's what she says. But at the same time, like, I could see her just saying that just to save face because they didn't invite her. Like, that's what I mean. It's just like,
yeah, some of those Team Candice. I mean, that's cool. I mean, more power.
That's where we're at. Talk it out, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but nobody's really talking like.
Right.
You know what?
I mean, I personally got nothing against her, but she's just annoying to me in general, politically or not. Like, she just is. I don't know. I don't like her voice. It irks me.
I mean, she's in a prime position to make a little money, mainly because she's that handful of Black Republican supporters that will be like very out and open with a platform, and you know what, do what you got to do, but like, I mean, I'm of the sense of like, not all kinfolk are kinfolk, and like I just know that she ain't for me.
I saw a comedian address this topic, specifically Candice Owens, and I really could appreciate his point of view. And it might not necessarily be my place to say, but basically, it was a Black man. He was like, Black people, we have got to embrace our weirdo cousins. Like, the Candice Owens comes from, feeling not accepted. This is not my words, because obviously I'm not Black, so I don't have the position to say this. But I do think it was insightful, so I'm sharing it.
So on that vein,
basically he was saying is like, and I think this is true in like Black culture, but also like culture, like so many times in like mainstream culture, Black people are only going to be presented a certain way. And so I don't know if it's like Black culture taking that on or whatever, but like basically this comedian was basically saying we got some weirdos. We have been, we've been kind of like brainwashed, so to speak, to like feel like this is what Black culture means, and if you don't fit into that, that's it. But the truth is, among Black people, there is so much variance. There's so much variety. It's not just one stereotypical, type character or whatever. And so his point was basically when we have these variances, even if it's not something that like mainstream tells us that we should accept, like we need to start embracing them, because when we don't, we get Candace Owens. And then white people think that it's okay, and it's not.
Mo, you making a face.
Yeah, because we normally associate liberal political people like Al Sharpton kind of as like scammers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we never do that for the right. We know for a fact that Candace Owens is a scammer. And why we're not even indulging into that, it boggles my mind. Candace Owens used the NAACP in a court case in order for her to go to school, and won and got several $100,000 for it. We have documented cases that she has been a long time liberal when the money is right. She just recently went over to the right. This is all about money. She is a scammer, just like Al Sharpton, just like the Jesse Jackson, just like the rest of them. So for me to even be like, oh, we have to acknowledge. No, we don't have to acknowledge. We need to acknowledge what it is. She's a scam artist. And I feel bad for Cardi B because she kind of got caught in the crossfire, and because Cardi B is very intelligent, but unfortunately Cardi B English is not her first language. And she is not the person to do interviews with. She has an excellent name. So of course you want to use that name in order to bring people to the table to try to get your political figure, to your cause. But as far as watching her interview Bernie Sanders and also Joe Biden, it was cringeworthy. So I hate to say it, I have to somewhat agree with Candace Owens, but she didn't have to do the girl like that. Number one. Number two, let's not forget, even though English is not her first language, and yes, she's very she's on the straight and narrow now. But as a child or a teenager, Cardi B was a blood. Candace Owens might need to watch her mouth.
No.
For real, because she already told.
Because what's that other?
She got the wrong one.
She got the wrong one because she already told that other girl that she could dog walk her. So like, look,
yeah,
she may not make it in 2021 with them busted edges. I'm telling you.
And those shoes without the back of the heels, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes,
them slingbacks. I'm like, I understand. I'm like, meanwhile you got Ivanka going with all the styles of Perry and all that, and I'm like, honey, you getting a check now. You're getting $1. Like you can get up to that level. They know your face now. Get up to the level. You're supposed to be the scammer. I mean, that's what Omarosa did. If you're gonna be a scammer the right way.
You're taking me out.
That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. But but going back to the original point though, I honestly I really feel bad because it is true. I think Cardi B definitely had her best interest. She definitely had her best interest at heart, trying to bring younger people to the table because it's going to take the youth in order to bring any type of change in this country. And I really hope that she starts empowering them to start at the lower levels as opposed to doing other interviews with presidential candidates. But that's just me.
And I think the moral of the story, honestly, it's the tried and true proverb of "Don't start none, won't be none." Like I don't think, like I feel like that whole feud didn't really need to happen. Granted, like by the end, they were able to profit in a way, like they would promote whatever they've been doing. Cardi got to promote her song WAP.
Yeah.
And Candice got to promote her book that's coming out.
Yeah.
So they benefited in a way, but like in the meantime, like that's that one. Don't start none, won't be none.
AKA try Jesus, don't try me.
Yes.
Because I'll throw hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. Yes. Yeah. All right. So the next topic I want to talk about before we go to a commercial break is it's that time of year. I think that's almost like all year that California is on fire. We have the current fire happening due to a gender reveal party that had pyrotechnics.
10,000.
Yeah.
I got in trouble on Instagram this morning because I made a joke about that.
God.
I was like,
it too soon? Too soon?
I was like, y'all be careful out there. It's super dry. A gender reveal party started a fire that burnt like 10 acres in Ben Shapiro's wife's vagina.
Yikes! Yes.
Damn.
And I know that's a lot for some people, but I'm a stand-up comedian, so I thought that was pretty middle of the road.
That's par for the course for Gus. Yes, so it's the one like extreme of like, yes, this is started by a gender reveal party that like did the most, and then like you can the scientific side of like global warming is real. This is why this is happening right now. Dry vegetation everywhere, and you're deciding to have a gender reveal party with pyrotechnics in a area where it's nothing but like dried up grass.
Yeah, that was super dumb of them.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it was just dumb. Worst case scenario, it was willfully dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I personally don't see the need for the all the extraness as a mom of two.
I still don't see the point of a gender reveal party.
Exactly,
Anyway,
like as a mom of two,
I'll go to them. There's food and says celebration and stuff. But if I ever get pregnant again, knock on this wood, I'm not having a gender party reveal thinking bobber.
So I mean, I think we can, as a society, get so caught up in is it a boy or a girl, and I know that sounds cliche, but like it's just a baby. It's healthy. Like we like celebrate the parents, celebrate the baby, support them. But why we gotta have a whole separate party to say if it's a boy or a girl? Like honestly,
it's gotten very just. I mean, of course, baby showers are materialistic, but we all know why they're baby showers. It's to get stuff with a new baby coming in. But these gender reveal parties, they're too much. I don't give a damn. If you live in the driest part of California, they doing them here in Georgia. I'm so sick of them. They're just too much. And now we got all of California
for the parents,
on fire.
not for the kids.
Right. Yeah. It's all look about me-ism, and it's all for Instagram.
Look, when I was pregnant, I was miserable. I was fat. I was hot. And I was tired. I didn't want no one to look at me. I just wanted you to come and just celebrate with me really, really quickly. Drop off gifts for this baby so I have to buy diapers for the first month and go home. I love you guys and thank you. But I'm hot. I want to go to sleep.
Thank you. Yes. Like I'm just like I want my meatballs. I want my pigs in a blanket, and I want my fancy cheese dip at my baby shower, and that's about it. Like, give me the gifts and the gift cards.
I'm so excited about the food.
Right. Like I want the food. Like I don't need all the extra stuff. And like it's almost like the way of like the promposals where you're doing like this extremely expensive and completely unnecessary Like
that's the thing, it's unnecessary. I can see if we could justify a reason for this extra celebratory bull crap, but it's just I just don't see the reason for it other than, oh, let's spend more money and get more stuff and do this and do that. I mean, this stuff just started. I think I went to, no, when did these start? Like 2015, 20, they haven't even really been around that long. And now they're just, like, for example, a push, what they call it now? The push gift or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, these women are literally getting mad at their husbands for not giving them some expensive ass gift for pushing a baby through your vagina, which is what you're supposed to do. Like, that's the best gift. What comes from, I just don't get it. So I just think it's just, everything's just so materialistic now. It's not even fun anymore.
Honestly, like the best thing I got after pushing out my first kid was a Five Guys burger. Like that's all I wanted.
Oh my God, my dad
Coke.
went to like this soul food place that I love. The nurse was like, she's gonna start pushing. I was like, I haven't eaten in 20 hours. Please go give me a plate of food. He came back.
Thank you.
Oh my God, collard greens, barbecue chicken. Back when I ate chicken, it was amazing. That was the best gift ever. The food.
That's I don't need all that.
And nothing caught on fire. I just ate collard.
Someone said gender reveal parties are, like they're part of the experience. That's true. Like I think at the basis of it all, we can all say, like, as a mother, as a parent, we all experience that different, right? You know what I'm saying? But I do think that the gender reveal parties put a lot of, I think it just speaks to the culture of America, where we're so caught up in, is it a boy or a girl? And what does that mean? Like, why do we care so much? I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't want to take away from anyone's experience. That's what you feel like you need, and that's where you're at with your husband. You need a push gift or whatever. I don't know. That's your experience, right? Like, we all have our own experience, but like, why are we putting so much pressure on, is it a boy or a girl?
There's an answer to that question.
So if it really didn't matter, why?
I wanted girls. I ain't want boys.
Love your
God
damn
bless
kid.
me with 2 girls.
I mean, I guess what I'm poking at is, people like to say sexism or racism or these isms don't necessarily exist. But if they didn't exist, why are we throwing gender reveal party? Like, why would even?
I don't even think it's about that though. I think it's just another reason for everybody to party, and they're just either.
Why do we care?
I mean, that's something, like, I just feel like it. Like I said, I'm not, like you said, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. If you want to have a gender reveal party, have a gender reveal party. But it's just, why? Like, we went so long without having them.
James, what you got to say?
It's about social media. At the core of it, gender reveal parties are about being seen. It's not about the kids so much. It's about the parents promoting whatever they want to promote. And in so much as there's simplicity and you have a cake that's pink or blue or whatever, and you get your presents from your friends, awesome. I've been to a baby shower. I would not willingly go to one again.
You've been going to the wrong ones, James.
They don't have the right food.
I can only fawn so much over the mom. Love you all. Not for me.
And let's keep in mind, like, the gender reveals are still like a recent development. Like, this has not been like
a trend.
the norm for, the typical like journey of pregnancy.
Yeah, I bet it didn't happen to any of us when we were born.
Hell no.
And I mean, some of our parents didn't even really know until like 6-7 months in because of technology. I mean,
I had a friend of mine. She came. Obviously, she's a girl. Her whole while her mom was pregnant, the whole pregnancy they thought she was a boy because she had her thumb down there, and she came out and she was a girl.
She was sitting there like this, but it like
she had her thumb down there, so the whole time,
That's awesome.
So one of the sort of things about the gender reveal parties and everything, and so this is kind of harkens back to where someone said there's like sexist undertones, and that someone disagreed. It does sort of like push that heteronormative sort of view of things, right? So, and then we talked about how it's only been in the past few years. I think like the mid 2000s, the early aughts, is when the first gender parties actually happened, and there's a correlation. It's not causative. I'm not saying like there's a proof to be made here, but there is a correlation between the advancement of civil rights for homosexual and LGBTQ persons and transgendered people being in the spotlight, and then this sort of push towards like, well, gender's real, we're gonna have gender reveal parties, and we want our kids to be boys and girls, and everything that means. So not saying everybody who does a gender reveal party, that's what's going on in their head, but there's definitely a lot of that kind of correlation in there.
Well, thank you.
Exactly. I'm not saying it's sexist. I'm saying, why do we care so much?
Wow.
If there was not such a big difference between the sexes in society, why would we even care so much to have a gender reveal?
It's just an excuse to party and get presents, right?
Yeah,
have
I'm
a
still with
party.
Gus on that.
Sam, I get it. Cause
I get it too, but that like for Daddy to have to break it down like that, then clearly the original motive has been lost, because now it's all about gifts, materials, alcohol, and a cake that might be pink or blue on the inside.
yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that. I learned that today because, once again we have a movement or something that we're celebrating that's being, misappropriated or being misused for a different cause. And we ain't gonna go no deeper than that, y'all. Was not trying to go BLM with that. But I'm just saying, like, I didn't know.
And you
I'm
also
never-
trying to deal with.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't have kids, but it never ceases to amaze me the crazy stuff that people with kids do. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
I mean,
I just
know
am
it
literally
is.
often like, wow.
I mean,
It is what it is. Yeah.
And like, I respect people's rights to have gender reveal parties. I don't particularly like it, but they have the right to do that. What they don't have the right to do is burn down a third of the West Coast.
Back to that original point.
I love what you did
not
there,
to bring
Gus.
it back to
You brought
that,
it
but I
back.
mean, like, I agree with everybody. It makes me uncomfortable. I think it's unnecessary, but like, people are going to do what they're going to do. But these people endangered thousands of lives and millions of dollars worth of property, and I think they should be held responsible for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask
think
who
they
gets
are.
sued.
And
Who
they
gets
are.
sued? Like, that's a lot of people suing, like, one
I
or two
think
people.
they are responsible. I have to double check on that, but I think they are being held responsible. Like they owe some money.
They are.
Well,
Yeah,
because I mean,
I hope they
even
got good
in Clayton
insurance.
County, we have ban burns. Like, you can't burn things during a certain time of the year in parts of Georgia, and we're nowhere near as dry and arid as it gets over there in the Ring of Fire over there in California. So
Yeah, I've
it
lived
had
out
to
there,
be
and
some
it
type
is
of law.
so dry. Like, driving back and forth between Vegas and LA several
Vegas
times.
is horrible. I got dehydrated. EMTs had to be called. It's a whole different type of dry.
Yeah.
I literally
like
pulled over and
sandpaper in
put
the
out
air.
fires several times while I lived out there. Like, anybody who's smoking a cigarette who throws it out, like 50-50 shot, there's going to be a fire. It's super
And screw you,
irritating.
D, for doing that. Come on now, that's rude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, do something or deal with the consequences. I want to be able to
Right.
drive home.
Right. All right, so thank y'all for that. So we're going to go into a quick commercial break before we get into our main topic of white privilege. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cody from Cody Paul Media. Thank you for joining me. Anybody can record a video, but the question is, how do you make that video stand out among the rest? A quick animated video like this one can change things around for your company, so go to codypaulmedia.com and get those needs met today. See you later.
actually telling my body. And the things that our body needs to survive, you can't weigh it down with all that junk, all the chips, cookies, cakes, and pies. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. And I know for me, that's my struggle. My weakness is sweets. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I had already planned when I got this video to make a run to Del Taco real quick and get one of them sweet cheesecake bites. Let me tell y'all something. Them things will make you slap your mama. They so good. Lord have mercy. Is that drool? That done got me drooling.
What? With these commercials, I'm going dying. Oh,
Okay, so that was Cody Francis of CPM and Tamara Francis, a power couple. Go y'all. So Cody Francis is OCPM is looking for new clients, and Miss Tamara Francis, Miss Tam Fran of her YouTube channel, the Mompreneur Plug on YouTube. They just reached 1,000 subscribers on their channel.
Hey.
So, congrats, Mama. Good for you.
And I understand them cheesecake bites. My Lord.
Look, let's be real.
You drooling? See, I can't even have them. They got gluten in them. Damn.
No, I hate it for you, girl.
Look, I'm about to go around the corner. Del Taco's right down the street from my house. Come on.
All right, so we're gonna get into our main topic of the night, which can be a bit touchy, and we are talking about white privilege. What is it? Does it really exist? So, I want to pull up for a second. I'm not going to show it to you. I'm going to have to read it. So, because I had it pulled up earlier. So, I want to give like a quick little definition from Merriam-Webster on what the definition of white privilege is. It's the set of social and economic advantages that white people have by virtue of their race in a culture characterized by racial inequality. I'm going to start with that. That's just from Merriam-Webster. If you have a different definition or your thought process, go ahead. Let's get started.
What is white privilege not? Right? So what is white privilege not? White privilege is not you get everything handed to you. White privilege is not because you're white, you didn't have to struggle. White privilege is not you are a racist. It is none of those things. And what happens is that whenever white privilege gets tossed around, for various reasons, and this is kind of at fault from both sides of the issue, actually, is that's what people hear. And when they hear that, of course, they think, wait a minute, I'm not racist. I worked hard for what I have. Nobody gave me anything. White privilege is not real, right? But that's not what those things are, and that's not what it is. So that's my start off.
And yes, and that's something that I was thinking about too, is that it's that knee-jerk reaction of what you think white privilege is not necessarily or exclusively white wealth. It can be related. They sometimes go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. They're not interchangeable. So, I'll get to you, Alex. Don't worry. But we got to keep that in mind. So the thing is, with white privilege, you got to keep in mind there are things that are put in place to keep people from moving up in the world or doing better for themselves for whatever reason. So we have different types of privileges. So yes, as you know, not necessarily the majority, but the leading group for our country. Yes, there are things that people get simply because they are not a minority. There's benefits to that. There are benefits that you have. You might not necessarily realize it and it might not be as like right in your face as you think it is, but it's there. Mo, you got thoughts? I can see it in your face.
You can see it's written all over your face.
Yes.
You don't have to say a word. Okay, so two things. Because these are things that are ingrained in our society. When you think of white privilege, a lot of times you're right. A lot of people are like they use anecdotal evidence, like, oh well, I had to work hard for my money, so that doesn't exist. Get that out of here. But they don't look at the actual facts of what happens in this country. If you look from a financial standpoint, you have things like redlining, which a lot of powers that be used around the turn of the century, around the 1900s, in order to marginalize Black people and to keep them from generational wealth. Then you have health care, where you have Black women have the highest mortality rate in the country, regardless of social economical value. A Black woman can have a master's degree, and has a higher rate of mortality than a white woman that is barely has a GED. And there is no other markers of difference other than race. I mean, when you see statistics like that, it's kind of like, well, how can no one see that there's actually that this exists? Well, they don't want to look at the ugly facts of that racism is more than just people thinking people are more superior than others. It was an actual systemic theory that has been put into play over these past 400 years. And people don't want to look at that is still coming into play today in 2020. That is something that is old. That happened hundreds of years ago. It doesn't affect us now. Martin Luther King fixed all that, so everything is good. No, the sins of the father, unfortunately, it doesn't just go away because Martin Luther King went and said, "I have a dream" in the March on Washington. It's going to take a lot more work and restitution than that. And I think that word restitution, I think people are afraid of that word, that particular R word, and restitution becoming down the road of reparations. Because then they're like, okay, wait a minute, I worked hard for this slice of the pie, and you're saying that's going to get taken away because some of my forefathers did some work, and that wasn't right. Well, I don't care about all that. I worked hard. I'm going to keep what I want, what I have. Damn what they did. They should just work hard like me, even though they're not recognizing that they have a extra boost.
Can I chime in with a question, actually?
Go ahead, guest, and then I'll get to you, James. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear multiple views on what like reparations would be. Like from what I understand, it would just be giving people what they were promised. And in that case, I don't see why somebody else getting something should negatively affect anybody else. I've never understood people being against it because they're not trying to take anything out of my mouth. They're just trying to give more to other people. So that has never made sense to me, the argument against that. Or would you consider it like a redistribution of lands and wealth, like be it amicably or by force? Well, those are the schools of thought I see.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that there's a finite amount of wealth in this country. So,
zero-sum game.
And they feel like, well, if they're getting something, then that means what I have is going to be of less value. And I worked hard for it, and they didn't have to work hard for it, and that's not fair. And they should just pull themselves up by the bootstrap and just don't worry about it and just work. Now, recognizing that, how dare you ask somebody to pull themselves up by the bootstrap when they weren't able to get boots to begin with?
Yeah, there were centuries of systematic injustices that
that's a quote from Martin Luther King, by the way.
Okay, poor James has been trying to raise his hand for like 10 minutes.
It's okay.
Just FYI.
So this is what I wrestle with. So I can point to all of these very concrete examples of historically enacted incidences of racism. A couple good sources are the 1619 Project by the New York Times, anything Isabel Wilkerson has written. She just wrote a book called Caste, which looks at how America has treated the people at the bottom of its society. And then down to Nice White Parents, and addressing Gus's point of handing people things, the Supreme Court this year just ceded half of Oklahoma to the Creek Nation, which is another population that has been marginalized and disowned and pushed and driven across the country. So we have an example of moving forward what reparations or self-government might look like. The problem I run into is that we are in a society that is now not so much, it's hard to persuade people now. The greater move now is to push people to engage. So people are rigid in their opinions, and there's this soft middle that's maybe 20% of the population, 15% of the population. So we talk at each other, not to each other. And when we do that, we have gridlock and nothing happens.
Thank you for that, James.
And that is the fundamental issue. I mean,
haven't we always had that?
Sam?
So
one way or another, James, haven't we always had that? We've had culture and counterculture. Haven't we always had that?
Sure. I mean, like the Tulsa Massacre. Did we know about the Tulsa Massacre until Donald Trump decided to hold a rally there on Juneteenth?
I
did.
Did society as a general know?
No, purposely not.
No.
But that's because
I
there's
think
a reason
Black
why
culture
they're
did.
purposely buried.
Black culture knew.
Well,
Yeah, but that's the problem.
well,
That's
the
the
evidence
problem.
is purposely buried. Though.
So
The
I would
problem
say,
is, mainstream culture does not include Black culture. If Black culture knew about it and the mainstream culture didn't, that's a problem.
Yes and
This
no.
is a major history event that most white people didn't know about because it didn't affect them. And
I
a
will
lot
say
of Black
this.
people didn't know about it because it wasn't taught in school. So why would we teach that in school?
Although I'll say this, James, there's a saying that history is written by the victors.
Totally.
And with the South and in the Midwest, they have a tendency of when certain things like this happen, like with the Tulsa Massacre, Rosewood,
yes,
they tend to bury the evidence after it's
Central Park actually being where everything was buried.
Yeah, even like Lanier, there used to be a city called Oscarville that they lynched half of the citizens of that town and basically said the rest of them you got to go. So and then they didn't even like break up the buildings. So you have a bunch of buildings under that manufactured lake, and then they wonder why people die every year in that lake.
I mean, Dallas built a highway in the 70s right through the bustling Black community and cut the Black community off from the rest of Dallas. And that's it's a huge, you get into things like Southeast Dallas is a food desert. Yeah. And when the best place you can go for groceries is a convenience store that's selling ramen and Spam, of course you're going to have, for $1, of course you're going to have health issues.
Georgia, let me get your input on this.
I'm just taking it all in. It's
a lot.
So the thing about it for me is I'm just sitting back and listening because you guys are, for you all, it seems like it happened so long ago. My father was born in 1933. So imagine when my grandparents were born. Imagine the stories that I have heard firsthand. You guys have heard on TV or in a book. My dad has showed me actual pictures. It's just, it's not far away. Like this is so recent. And I think that's what a lot of white people do not get. It is so so recent that you can literally have. I mean, my dad was MLK's bodyguard when he was here in Atlanta. My dad was APD for 40 years and wrote firsthand accounts on the first Black 8 policemen in Atlanta Police Department. And so when anybody, white, black,
The Deacons, right?
alien, or whoever tells me that there's no white privilege and that there's no systematic racism, I have to sit back and shut my mouth, because this Libra's tongue becomes a knife. Because you cannot tell me, out of anybody probably on this panel, that it doesn't exist, because I had two parents that lived through it. My mom was born in 52, and her siblings integrated their middle and high schools. So, when you hear about the little kids who had stuff thrown at them for integrate, that was my mama. That was my aunt.
Ruby Bridges
And
just turned 62 or 60 something. That's
my
Ruby
mom is
Bridges.
68. My mom is
Right.
68 years old. And if my father was still alive, he would be like mid 80s. Okay. Didn't the Scooby-Doo guy, who I forgot his name, the guy who wrote Scooby-Doo, he died at 88 years old. I mean, these are recent people who are dying. Yes, thank you. I don't do well with names. I will probably remember everyone's faces, and I remember names. Just Sam, because we went to school together. So I'm sorry in advance. But I literally got in hold on, I got it. So for a white person doesn't get it, what can remain for them to actually listen?
Yes, number one.
Listen. Like, I literally had to tell this. Okay, let me back up. I have tons of friends of all colors, Republicans, Democrats, whomever. So I do have a good amount of white friends who are Trump supporters, and I love them and they love me. We have no issues, no beef or whatever. But I did comment on one of her posts, and a white man thought it was okay to school me on my Black history because I was young. That's white privilege. For the fact that you think, I will never tell you how to feel as a white man. I will never tell you how to feel as a white woman. But because I'm a young Black woman, and I'm actually a whole lot older than what I look, you have the audacity to come at me that way. That's what I'm talking about. And then it's even, honestly, if you want to take white privilege a little bit further, let's talk about white male privilege, because white women are technically under white men. The white man controls everything. And I'm not trying to sound like one of those Hebrew Israelite people. No. And not all white men have that idea, but regardless, the fact that you are a white man, you can have a Black wife, you can have all the little mixed grandbabies you want, you can stand on the front lines of Black people, and you can protest all day long. But because you are a white man, you have power. And I don't think that that's what white men and white people don't get, just because of the skin that I'm in. And I'm not trying to toot my horn. I grew up not wanting or needing anything. It was covered. I was good. My parents did very well for themselves. Sam, at my age, back when we all used to go up to Lenox, and everybody in North Atlanta go up to Lenox and have fun, the white kids, I know for a fact, could walk into any store, not be looked at. Me, I walk into a store, and they look at me like, how can I help you? You didn't talk to Sally, you didn't talk to Becky, but now you want to talk to Georgia. That's not how that works. So when you come across things like this, that's when we all just need to just listen. And Blacks need to listen to whites too. We're all in this together. I can't stand when Black people are just so against white people. That irritates the stew out of me. What's up, Jose? Do you feel like white billionaires who tell Black people that are using? I love you, Jose, but I kind of just said that. Yes, I had a white man just try to school me on my Black heritage. So I don't. Go ahead.
So like the thing right there. So if you are a white Black Lives Matter supporter, you're coming in as an ally. And your job as an ally is to help elevate and support Black Lives Matter movement. Your job is not to speak for. Your job is to help elevate. That's what you need to do. So when you are coming in telling Black people how to feel, about something that you don't personally deal with, then yeah, like that's you're talking out of pocket.
Now, what I would like is for someone to ask me why it is I feel this way. I would love that question.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I was gonna say, at this point, I'm not even sure it's about white people listening. At this point, I feel like it's about them just understanding. Like, listening and understanding to me are two totally different things.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, or I have seen some sentiment on social media around like trying to explain Black Lives Matter to white people, and just and honestly just feeling like at this point, if they don't get it, they just don't get it. And it's not because you're not explaining it or they're not listening. They just don't want to hear it. And the truth is, I feel like, and this is probably not a popular opinion, but I feel like white people are super sensitive to the word racism and all of that. And so a lot of times we hear the word racism, or we hear white privilege, or we hear systematic injustices, and we feel like we get defensive instead of just being able to listen and really understand what the other person is saying. Oh, in our heads, and whatever, I don't know, but this is my experience. What I've observed with my people is, when it comes to racism and when it comes to white privilege and systematic injustices, we hear the word racism and we revert back to, oh, you're hanging people from trees and you're dragging them behind crosses. You're doing these like horrific, unthinkable acts. And it's not, that's not how racism exists nowadays. It's when a Black person walks in the elevator and you hold your purse closed, or when a white person thinks it's okay to say, let me touch your hair, or like, that is how racism exists nowadays. And that is how white privilege exists nowadays. And I think that a lot of white people, when they hear racism, they think of these like kind of traditional, like horrific acts that have been associated with that, which I understand. But at the end of the day, we got to get over that. We have got to get over that. It does exist. White privilege does exist. It doesn't mean that you got a handout. It doesn't mean you had to work less than anyone else. It means that you didn't have to be oppressed because of the color of your skin.
Let me get
that's simply what it means. It doesn't mean you had a fair. Nothing in life is fair. No one, everyone goes through stuff. Nothing in life is fair. It doesn't mean you were handed your life on a silver platter. It just means the thing that was holding you back wasn't the inherent color of your skin that you had no choice about.
All right, Gus, and let me get Danny after Gus, because
sure. I feel comfortable speaking about the white perspective because I've been white for 32 years.
Yes.
I will say that when I was a teenager and the concept first got introduced to me, it didn't make sense. I was poor. My life was really hard. It kind of felt like a slap in the face a little bit. As I've gotten older, I've changed my mind about it and come around to a different way of thinking. I agree with Sam that some of the people who don't get it, it's cognitive dissonance, or they're willfully not getting it, or they're acting like they don't get it when really it's a red herring for the way they really feel. But I can't give up on those people because I find them embarrassing to a degree, and I want to help change their mind. So something that has helped me when speaking with, like in a locker room type situation when I'm talking to other guys and they don't get it, I'll try to recognize the fact that people immediately get defensive, and I'll try to and I'm not saying anybody else has to do this, but I try to not make it about the advantages that you have as a white man have, I'm saying what you don't have is you don't have hurdles in your way because you're white. And that small turn of phrase has brought some friends of mine around to a different way of thinking. You know, like, yes, your life is hard. Yes, you've had to struggle, but you never had to struggle harder because you were white. You never had to jump through these hurdles that some of our classmates and friends and whatnot have. And just that little thing sometimes will like get your foot in the door. So that's been helpful for me.
Danny, let me get you to chime in here.
So, one thing to kind of understand is that privilege itself is a word with its own meaning, right? And so we've tacked on white privilege to talk about the privileges that white people have, quote unquote. So let's take a step back from that and just look at privilege and just kind of a little bit lighter. Let's talk about right-handed people and left-handed people, right? So right-handed people, 9 out of 10. Left-handed people, 1 out of 10. So when I make a water fountain, I want to make it so everyone can use it. So I put the handle on the right side. That's where it goes, and that's where my handle is. And so every left-handed person that comes up to that water fountain, it's awkward, right? So that is right-handed person privilege. Boom, scissors. James just said, like, if you got to get left-handed scissors, and those aren't always everywhere. So then you can't cut your construction paper when you're in kindergarten. Right-handed person privilege. It's funny, right? But it's a thing, right? It's a real thing that is occurring. Same thing. I was in the military, 24-year veteran, retired, and I'm a Taoist. I am not a Christian man. I have a different belief system. There is a sort of Christian privilege in most military units, because if I go into a unit, on the wall there next to the chaplain is going to be all the Christian services. They're all going to be there. There might be a Jewish service, a Hebrew service. There might be, probably not, but there might be a Muslim service. There's never going to be like that chaplain has not taken the time to look for any other services and put them up there. If someone comes through, they'll help, certainly, but they don't just automatically put that up there, right? And religion's touchy, so sometimes you don't feel comfortable going to the Christian chaplain to ask about, because then, well, are they going to try to convert you? Are they going to, what are they going to do? What happens when the commander, who is a very religious, faithful Christian man, I've seen this happen, finds out that you're not Christian, one of his soldiers, and that becomes a thing that just makes you uncomfortable, and so you don't ask for it. So yes, that's part of it, Jose. White privilege not being 100% inclusive. There's a lot of different aspects about it that come in, and it's such a it's not like a hard line of black and white. So privileges exist in a lot of ways, and so to say that, like, here's the thing: at the end of the day, it is undeniable that white privilege exists. It is undeniable that there are things that don't happen to white people that happen to black people because they're black and white people are white. What you can argue is what impact that has, right? You can say, well, it's not a big deal, or you can say, no, it's a really big deal. You can say, well, is coming from a history of slavery and oppression more of a roadblock to progress than personal ambition? You can make those arguments, but you're, at the end of the day, like, it is real. So, yeah.
What I say to people who don't think it's real is, I'm like, you not thinking it's real is in fact proving its existence right now.
And to that, I would say that in privilege is the ability to not have your assumptions challenged. It's a safe space in which your worldview is never in doubt.
It's where they cast a white person in a person of color's role, and nobody makes a big deal out of it. But you put like a Hispanic lady in some role that they thought was white in The Witcher, and everybody just blows the fuck up. So,
Oh yeah,
or Hermione being a woman of color and she ended up being a white woman in the movies. I'm just saying.
Or it was the Hunger Games, the little girl that I forgot her name. Yes, Yes, Rue. Yes, like she was clearly described as at least a little girl of color, someone brown. But when you see her on screen, everyone is somehow surprised by that.
Right.
Like,
or even Lenny Kravitz's character. They had the same, like, and it was like, wait a minute. It was written in the book. He was a man of color.
Did y'all not read the book?
Even Jesus. I mean, Jesus in the Bible said he was a,
Ooh, girl, that's a whole different ballgame, though.
his hair was
That's a deep
wool,
one.
and
He's a Palestinian.
his was of dark brass, but for some reason they just love to characterize him as Caucasian. I don't know why, but
okay, so Alex had brought up earlier, like them not talking about white on white crime. Well, there are reasons for that. If you've seen the documentary 13th, they talk about that. That's part of
conditioning.
Conditioning, yes. That started late 70s at least. Well, I mean, like particularly with like the black on black crime. I feel like that started at least in the late 70s, where that's being used as a talking point. But yes, keep in mind, like, interracial violence happens across the board, number one. So like that's a mute point. And they do talk about the white people being arrested, but they get arrested, not shot and killed on the spot.
I think to your point, I think to whoever's point that said that, I think when a black person's it's black man arrested for, versus like
the language.
I feel like
why is a black male a number one male, but white people make up such a larger percentage of the population? That seems insane to me. That when they put an APB out or be on the lookout, and it's a black guy, they're like, we're looking for a number one male. Like, why are you choosing to put black men first now?
Right.
I was gonna say, when Sam said something that really like hit home for me, ow, my hair is stuck on the pillow. She said that
oh my,
that white, this fro back here, that white people get, and just correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you either get offended or hurt or get in their feelings when the word white privilege is thrown out there. And I think it's because we don't have conversations like this. Like when Sam talked about it, laid it out there, when Gus talked about it, when all four of you guys talked about it and laid it out there on the line, you removed your emotions from it. And I think people get so sensitive because they're so worked up in their feelings. They're not breaking down the word privilege and how it correlates with being white, and that everybody has some sort of privilege. Right. It's all about, what James, it's just sad. It's sad because I don't think even black people really understand what white privilege is. Sometimes we just know that we don't have it. I like that Danny came on here and said what white privilege is not, because that probably canceled out a whole bunch of comments that would have been in there, because we don't know what is not, but we also don't 100% know what it is. It's something that needs to be discussed more, and without these discussions, we're never going to get anywhere. We're just not. That's why I choose to comment on my white friends who are Republicans and Trump supporters posts. We talk about it. We love the debate. We sit down. We have discussions. And I love that. I love the fact that I have friends that are different than me, and then I understand their point of view and they understand my point of view, and sometimes we agree to disagree. I know that every white person on this planet is not going to wake up tomorrow and say, oh, systematic racism is a real thing, let's fix it, because sometimes people are just not going to get it, and we have to be okay with that. Everybody's just not going to get it.
Fix it.
If I could add to the end of that, a good friend of mine and I were talking earlier today, and he and I disagree about a lot of stuff, but I think it's important that we talk about it. And I told him, you know what? There are people on Capitol Hill who have disagreed, but have worked together for 50 years. So if they can still work together, then we should be able to talk about this and try to move forward. Also, I think we should not reelect any of those people, but that's a different conversation.
Oh, that's a
Can I-
whole different talk it out. You know, we can't start on that one.
Right.
So
Real
I just
quick.
want to also, you mind, Mo? So the other thing about privilege is you can only measure privilege in relation to a society or a group of people. And so privilege differs from place to place to place. There are people, say, in the military, I served in the military too, officers have a lot more privileges than enlisted folk. It's just a rule. You belong to a religious organization, you have a lot more privileges than people outside that religious organization. So we have this society that's America that has been predominantly or a majority white for 400 years. And now we are getting to a point where the white majority is beginning to dip under that 50% point. And I think that's scary to a lot of people because it's introducing the possibility that your assumptions may have to change. And when your quality of life changes, that's scary.
You lose control too. They're afraid of losing control. I mean, we're all afraid of losing control. I mean, unfortunately, the control that you're talking about is not necessarily the most positive control, but we're all afraid of losing control. So that's kind of normal for that to happen. Unfortunately, the reaction of losing control is not the most positive one either, but we can't control everybody's reactions, unfortunately. At least that's what my therapist told me. So,
And see, I don't think it's that dubious for the majority of Americans. I think that at the powers that be, I think it's definitely that level because they use that as the way to control people. Because they use the doctrine of the other, which is to say, the minorities, black people, you got to watch out for that welfare queen because you can't say the N word because that's not going to win you votes. But if you say law and order, that's going to get you vote. Now now this is doctrine that's been stated by Richard Nixon's former aide. So this is not something I'm just pulling out my behind. So I think now that there's pushback on that as far as privilege is concerned is because it's pulling the veil back from giving the doctrine of the other. Because if you pull that veil back, then that means they got to go back to the drawing board to create some other way to control the people because ultimately that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also a little bit about, and please, my white friends here, tell me if I am wrong, but I feel, or I think, or what I have observed is that white privilege isn't earned. All of my privileges that I've damn sure had to earn as a single black mother. I mean, I had to go, like, I think someone said there are tons of obstacles that I go through that you all will, never go through. So I think knowing that when you're no longer the majority and you have to actually earn that privilege that was just given to you because of the color of your skin is scary. And honestly, that would scare the shit out of me too. That's a huge change for what America was built on. I'm not saying it's a negative or positive change. I really do feel like it is a positive change that we just need to just level out this whole privilege BS, to be honest. But I think that's what a lot of it is. I know that just in general, just me not being able to work some of my jobs that I worked so hard and earn titles in because of freaking COVID, like that terrifies me. Like, is this, am I going to get it back? How is it going to work now with this big change? So I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Just something I thought about.
Oh, real quick, before anybody else, somebody earlier asked. They probably asked very, just being, not being serious. But I did want to give the scriptural reference when I talked about Jesus. The scriptural evidence of Jesus not being Aryan or white is actually in Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. So just if y'all want to go ahead and read up on that in your own time, amen. Praise the Lord, saints.
Hey, y'all leave Korean Jesus alone.
Well, he said brass. I don't. Is that Korean?
Brass? No.
Oh, okay.
Not the brass I've seen.
Sorry. No, he said bronze. Yes, whatever.
So
Sounds like an amazing.
Thank you, Curtis.
Yeah.
So Jose had asked, how do you handle white privilege in the moment? I don't think it's not a moment thing. It's a
life.
system. It's system. It's a system. It's a
Oh,
broad
man.
thing, and it's
I
hard.
can illustrate this.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
I'm a West Point graduate. Okay, when I went to West Point, the class was 15% women, right? So going in as a white man, everything is just kind of, the school was built for me, right? And that's how it existed forever. Women didn't go to West Point until 1981 was the first graduating class. And so these women graduate and become officers, but then they're scattered out into the Army, in which they are 3 to 4% of the entire officer population. So we have watched in recent years as women have tried to break the glass ceiling to enter the combat arms. Combat arms being your infantry, your infantry, artillery, and tanks, right? And so 80% of West Point's graduating class goes into those branches. None of them historically have been women. So we have watched in the past 4 or 5 years as women from West Point pushed to join the infantry, to go to ranger school, to serve in a combat unit on the ground with men, to lead a platoon and then a company of men and women in a combat arms environment. So I have watched personally as women in my unit and in my life have to push so much harder to be recognized, to get a good evaluation, to have the chance to do what I will get to do because I'm here. And so that's the kind of thing. It's not so much that I have to, I'm not going to say, hey, sir, don't give me that spot. She should have it. Of course, that's not the game so much as recognizing people for their inherent talent, ability, and work ethic, period. And that's a hard thing when we're holding gender reveal parties celebrating, but work is work.
And that's
I think it's interesting that I just want to say I feel like we're working towards a society where people value talent and ability and what you bring to the table more than what you look like. And I think that that's a step in the right direction. Now we have to make sure that the people who make those decisions about how talented and whatnot you are come from a diverse enough background that it's not a pigeonholed view of talent and of what people bring to the table.
But are we though?
I'll say this. So we tend to promote what's familiar, which means what we know. Yeah. And so, especially in the military and in government, your entourage travels with you once you get to a certain point. So unless you are in the entourage, you're out. And that's how we end up with stuffy white guys at the top of the chain.
Nepotism.
Nepotism, it's career, it's opportunists that see a shiny star and they hitch their wagons and go where the winds blow them.
Frankly, that's why I was so concerned when Trump put the executive order stating that for federal jobs, you don't have to have certain degrees anymore. Mm-hmm. Because the largest employer for African Americans in this country is the federal government. Mm-hmm. And the most currently right now, as far as degree-driven population, is Black women. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, is this a means in order to maneuver around because Black women are getting those requirements now in order to have a position? So now that they're pretty much the only applicants to so you have no choice but to break that glass ceiling? Is this another way to get around that? That's what I think back in, huh?
I said black women essentially pulling themselves by their bootstraps, like they say they want us to do.
Yeah. By our shoelaces, since we don't have any boots.
Right.
And that may or may not be the case, right? But
I don't trust them.
You're thinking it, right? And that's part of white privilege, because as a white person, you're not thinking that.
No.
You're not worried. That's not a concern you have. But as a black person, that's a concern you have. And whether it's true or not, it could be true. And that's part of privilege as well.
So on that note, we're going to do our last commercial break, and then we're going to do some final thoughts. So we will be right back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Jessalyn Pease Garrett, author of Timeless, The Law of the Coven, my new book that came out August 1st of this year. This is the second in the Timeless series, and it features a teenage witch. She's gonna hone her magical abilities, and we're gonna pit her against a dark coven of witches. So I hope you enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed writing it. Timeless, The Law of the Coven is available online from all your favorite retailers. Thanks, guys.
All right, so I want to get us into our final thoughts. So we'll start with Danny. Final thoughts.
All right, so final thoughts. I want to get into one other thing that I think kind of pushes people, is a reason for pushback against the idea of white privilege, and that is, what do I do about it, right? Jose asked, what do we do in the moment? But not just what in the moment, what as a white person are you expected to do about it? And that's a scary question. Like, am I, I'm not racist, I'm not these things, so how do I change it? And it's not any particular thing except to just see that it's happening. That's it. That's the only thing. By seeing that it's happening, it changes your perspective on so many things, and it keeps you from saying the hurtful things that keep pushing sort of the negative story forward. And it just, you don't have to, it's good if you can. If you have the energy to be an ally, if you have the energy and knowledge to help anywhere you can, to frequent black businesses, to stand with protesters, great. But not everybody can. Not everyone has the energy for that. Not everyone is in a situation where that's a feasible thing. So just being aware and hearing the voices of people of color and marginalized people all around you. And that's really all you have to do. That's all anyone is really asking of you.
Thank you. All right, Georgia, give us your final thoughts.
I don't know. This just makes me happy. Just the fact that we can all sit down and show viewers that we're able to come together and just talk about this. Because like I said, I don't think anything is going to change until we actually start having a positive, dialogue about it and removing our emotions. It's something that's not going to be fixed overnight. This happened, took hundreds of years to get here. It's going to take probably a few hundreds or so to, kind of get us out of it. But it starts here. So I think, like you said, and it just acknowledging and just knowing that it exists, honestly, means just a lot to me. I can't speak for all black people. I'm just speaking for myself. It just means a lot just to know that you think about it, you question it, you research it, you talk about it. I mean, the little things matter. And I think if we just stop expecting our allies to just move these mountains, I mean, rivers and bodies of water split rock bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. And so it's going to take time. So I just want to say thank you guys for having this positive conversation with all of us.
Oh, thanks, Georgia. All right, Gus, final words.
I gotta say, I was kind of hoping somebody on the panel was going to disagree with the majority of us so that we could argue with them. But this was kind of refreshing in that way. We didn't all agree about everything, but I think everybody had a lot of insight, and it was educational. So I'm glad to have been a part of it. Thank you.
All right, James, your final thoughts.
All right, so it was Eleanor Roosevelt said that between synapse and response, there is a space. And in that space lies your freedom to choose. And I think that when we're discussing something like this, I'm certainly riled up, but it's the ability to recognize your emotion and think with your brain rather than your gut or your heart is what allows us to move forward constructively without clouding with rage or indignation or anger or whatever, which is how we are going to begin to make progress as an entire community. I had a great time here. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. All right, Sam, final thoughts.
I would have to agree. I was kind of hoping to try and understand like the opposite of this. I think I had a very unique experience growing up, and I think that I see a lot of things that on average in general, a lot of white people don't see on a day-to-day basis. So I would love to like unpack that, you know what I'm saying? But I think the crux of it is there is, and if we could just come together and not get so defensive about it and not take it so personal and just sit down and really say, okay, what's the issue? Like, why do we have to get, I think someone was like, when we speak about it, we're not emotional about it. Like, why do we have to get so emotional about it? Like, I'm someone that's fairly solution oriented. So it's like, okay, the fight back and forth of if it's an issue or not, to me, is a little bit redundant. It is an issue. What are we together, black and white and brown and, everybody in between, what are we going to do with it and how are we going to address it? And I think for so long, it's only been the problem of the people it's been affecting. And that's not the case. It is America's original sin. We will never get past this until we address it. So it's not just black people or brown people or minority people's problems. It's our problems too. It's white people's problems too. So as soon as we can move past being emotional about that and feeling some type of way about that and just saying, okay, this is what it is. How can we move forward? I think that's when we'll start to see some real change. But right now we're caught up in, is this even real or not?
Thanks, Sam. All right, Mo. Put that cash up.
Yes, thank you so much. Whether it's big or small, I'm not greedy, just a little needy. But I do want to thank everybody on the panel. I want to thank everybody that has listened, even the sarcastic ones in the comments. I didn't catch you this week. I'm going to get you next time. I promise. Interesting how we got a reasonable length of time since a certain moderator is not on this week. Yeah, I said it in my final time.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
But back on the subject, after that comic relief, my final thoughts about when it comes to white privilege. I think people's bias, and as well as microaggressions, definitely comes into play when they talk about white privilege, because then that means that, wait a minute, I didn't get everything on my own merit. That's not true. So based on their own anecdotal evidence, then that means everything else is false. So we know that that's not necessarily true. And I think that even browbeating people over the head with facts, I don't know, pictures, pentagrams. I don't know. I don't know what's going to take for people to recognize that it exists. But I know that as a Black lesbian woman, that there's certain things that I see that a lot of other people don't want to hear from, but it's okay, and I'm okay with it. I've made my peace with it. I've stated the facts, and if you don't want to believe me, hey, that's on you. So, but also shout out to my fellow panelists that are in this that have served. Thank you for your service. I've been browbeat because I haven't been stating that before, current and past. Also, shout out to my church, Gym Project, who is having their 1 year anniversary coming up this Sunday. Congratulations to that ministry, that movement. And also shout out to my fraternity, Alpha Psi Kappa Fraternity Incorporated. So, peace and love, everybody.
All right, so I want to thank everybody for joining us in this conversation tonight. So you can find me on at Rickey Z _social on Instagram and at Rickey Z social _, on Twitter. I want to know where everybody else they can find you. So Danny, go ahead. Give us where you at.
So you're going to find stuff that I'm doing with remalternis.com, REMALTERNIS. That's on YouTube, that's on Twitter, that's on Facebook, and we have our own website. We've got a trailer out of a film series that we're going to be working on. You should check that trailer out. And we also just do a lot of game stuff. Also, Shadowrun is a role-playing game, fairly popular cyberpunk sort of setting. I write for those guys, and so you can kind of find me there.
All right, Georgia, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at SweetGeorgiaBrown924. I am just someone who runs all the time and does lots of fitness stuff and cooks a lot and shoves my face with lots of food. So if you like fitness and kids, I have cool kids, by the way, kids and food and fitness, you can come follow me.
Des, where can we find you?
Yo, yeah, you can find me live on Twitch Tuesday nights playing Dungeons and Dragons and getting high with my friends.
Fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's under the Art Hard Studios banner on Twitch. And then, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Yeah, if you're on Amazon Prime or something, pop my name in, throw a movie on, even if you don't want to watch it. That kind of shit actually helps us a lot. You know, getting views on your projects is a big deal. So, yeah.
We'll do that tonight.
Yeah, right?
So support our performing artists. Please and thank you.
Yeah.
All right, James, I know you said you don't have social medias, but where can we find
I'll
you
give
in
you one.
general? Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram. I have an account called Bakes by Jay. So it's Bakes, BAKES BYJAY. I'm a hobbyist, sourdough enthusiast, baker, and whatever. And I hop around the world. So I started before the pandemic. So I have OG roots.
Look at you go. All right, Sam, where can we find you, girl?
You can find me at Sam Sells ATL Homes on IG. Or you can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm working on producing a lot of relevant content, tip videos, community awareness videos. So it's not just like real estate. There's some other good things in there as well. So that's just Samantha Harden. And then my IG is Sam Sells ATL Homes. And my website is SamanthaSellsAtlantaHomes.com.
All right, Mo, I'm putting the cash app back up.
Yes, come through. All my social media is at Mo Smith Pro. My cash app is Mo Smith Pro. So any donations you want to push out there, you know. Also, any speaking engagements, you can inbox me on there if you want to have me come out and talk, because I do like to do that. Because when I talk, you talk, we talk. Hey, come on.
And then our special friend, I'm going to let him come back on.
Let me tell you something. Okay. Let me tell you something,
Wrap it
brother.
up.
Okay. Well, I know. Look, If I want to, I'll sit here and talk for 9 more minutes just to spite you.
That's fine. And
I did want to tell everybody, look, I mean, I'm coming on here to support I'm so thankful for y'all for holding it down. I know y'all, somebody asked Georgia to do a TED talk. Y'all don't want that business. But,
you better let her have her flowers, sir.
Thanks, Rakia, for holding it down. And I'm gonna definitely I just came from what I was previously doing. So I want to remind everybody to make sure you come back and watch us next Thursday. We have 2 episodes next Thursday. We got one on Monday, which is Geekin Out, which is our sister podcast, which I'm sure Rakia already told you about. She's also hosting that. And then next week, I want you all to either on the comments or on our Facebook, YouTube, or go to our Facebook pages or Instagram, and I want y'all to vote on what y'all want to be the topic over the next 48 hours. The options are weaponizing religion, bipartisanship, or bro code.
Broke code?
Bro code.
Oh, bro.
Bro code.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I like that first one.
Which of the topics would you want to hear about? Weaponizing religion, bipartisanship, or bro code? Y'all vote and we'll make a decision. All right. Rakia, take it away. You can put me backstage. I'm tired of Mo though. Don't be surprised if y'all don't see Mo no.
Look, don't be like that.
Look.
I ain't scared. You may not see my face, but you're definitely seeing in the comments.
All right. Well, that is it for tonight. So thank you for joining us on Talk It Out, where we have people of opposing views. Well, we tried to tonight get together and have a healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way, and keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. All right. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for letting me host tonight. Y'all have a good evening. Bye, y'all.